Just like the street lights lit this town, like a fire in a blaze, gotta burn it down.
All right, here we are, folks.
Can't be afraid to leave this out. We got this far, don't know how. I see danger in our eyes. They know we'll burn down the night. Coming just like the sunrise. You know that we gonna let it end. Tonight, we gonna let it end. Tonight, we gonna let it end. Just like the sunrise, we gonna let it end.
Welcome back once again. This is Chris Report, and he assured me that St. Simon's down in Boulders. Folks, this is Chris Wyatt reporting from South Africa. Everybody needs a little time away, I heard her say, from each other. Even lovers need a holiday, far away from each other. Hold me now. It's hard for me to say I'm sorry. I just want you to stay. After all that we've been through, I will make it up to you. I promise to. And after all that's been said and done, you're just a part of me I can't let go. It's hard to say I'm sorry, folks. It's hard to say I'm sorry. That's right. Jacob Zuma apologizes to the MK party for failing to show up at 2 events. Even lovers need a holiday far away from each other. Hold me now. I love it. 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 I will make it up to you. I promise. And after all that's been said and done, you're just a part of me. I just can't let go. Oh, please, MK voters, I can't let go. Welcome back, folks. It is Tuesday, 16 April 2024. It's the day after tax day. If you're an American, you haven't filed your taxes, watch out. Uncle Sam is coming for you. He's coming for you. Let's say hello to everybody in the chat. We'll get to lots and lots of news. We had tons to cover today. My goodness, so much happening in the world, and most of it isn't good. Right. Dylan Combrick is here as always. Welcome, Dylan. Teresa, Ken Arnston. Early for change. Well, that's because I'm late, Ken. Val Cooper is here. Nick Muller, Ants. Ulrich Fenter, Christine Ehlers. George Steinberg is in from Heckport. And then Nick Muller. John Jarvis, welcome, John. Paulie says, put out a short. Yeah, thank you for telling everybody, Paulie. I did put out a short. I did it right on the fly. On the fly. Did the best I could there. And Jax is here. Okay, thank you all for being patient. And Ashley Engelbrecht, Keith Alderson in from Coventry. And then we got Allison Johnson and Erica. Hello, Erica. Wolf K is here. And there's Sedgefield. Alan Kotza, Janet Liddy in from South Carolina, the Palmetto State, the home of Nikki Haley. Welcome back, Janet. Good to see you there again. And Monray Siebert's in from Cape Town. Good to see you all. Hester, did I miss you as well? Oh, I'm sorry, Hester. I didn't mean to make you cry, that song. I love that song by Chicago, but I was using it as a kind of a joke about Jacob Zuma and MK. Yeah, no, it's a great song. Chicago, Peter Cetera in Chicago in their prime. Amazing group. Amazing. I think their prime wasn't the 70s. I think it was the 80s, although they were very popular in the 70s. But Peter Cetera in Chicago. Yeah, good stuff. Yeah. What a great song. Anyway, folks, welcome back to the program. It's good to see you here again. Lots to talk about, as always. Let's go ahead and get right into the news. Feel free to interrupt if you want as we go along, and I'll try to keep an eye as taxi violence once again rears its ugly head in South Africa. 3 people shot dead and a minibus stolen in Ananda. Crazy stuff here. 3 people shot dead during a taxi-related incident in Ananda, north of Durban, early this morning. KZN police said unknown number of suspects opened fire on the deceased and attempted to kill one other person in the Lungwane area of Inanda. Police responded to reports of a shooting on Mpunzi Road, and upon arrival, 2 bodies, one of a man believed to be in his early 40s, another of a 24-year-old woman, were found lying on the road with multiple gunshot wounds. A few meters away from the first crime scene, another man, believed to be 50 years old, was found dead inside his cottage, also with gunshot wounds. The man's neighbor was also shot but survived. After killing the man and woman, the assailants allegedly made their way to a nearby house where they demanded the keys to a minibus from women who were in the property. The suspects took off with the spare key of the minibus, leaving the women unharmed. That was luckily for them. Same suspects are believed to have continued to the cottages down the road where they shot the third victim and took the original keys before driving off with it. Taxi was later found abandoned in the nearby Zuma township. Ladies and gentlemen, this gangsterism, this lawlessness that is South Africa in the 21st century is brought to you, sponsored by the African National Congress, the party of liberation for criminals. The ANC, which releases 15,000 convicted criminals to like Jacob Zuma out of prison, they are the party that brought you this chaos. Thank you, ANC. Hey, listen, the South African Revenue Service are the folks who collect your tax revenue. You know them, right? They're the people you have to pay taxes to if you actually pay taxes in South Africa. The handful of South Africans actually pay taxes. Yeah, so guess what? In Tshwane, Pretoria, they failed to pay their bills, so they've had their electricity cut off. The tax authority can't pay its bills. Folks, it doesn't get better than this. You cannot make this up. These are campaign ads screaming to be produced. I mean, where is the opposition? The ANC is committing own goals every single day. Every day, the ANC steps on its crank. Whoa! Step on that one again. My goodness, they can't help themselves. They cannot get out of their own way in this campaign. But where's the opposition? Busy Rise Mzansi is arguing with the DA, and the DA's stop it, stop it, stop it. Your fight is with the ANC, the EFF, and Mkhonto weSizwe, not with each other, you clowns. Knock it off. Tshwane cuts off the South African Revenue Service because they didn't pay their bill. City of Tshwane's cut off power to a Pretoria office belonging to SARS. Over 838,000 rand in unpaid electricity bills. Folks, that's about $45,000 US. In a social media post, the city wrote, "When you think you are here for a refund, boom, your lights are off." That's too funny. SARS owes us 838,000 Tshwane Yatima. Hashtag. Oh, the Tshwane Yatima is a municipal revenue collection program aimed at recouping the city's mounting losses because of deadbeats not paying what they owe them. Wow, they're currently owed 23.3 billion rand by deadbeats in the Tshwane area. Mayor Cillian's Brink trying to recoup that money. Wow. Wow. That's crazy. So SARS hasn't paid its bill. These are the people that collect your taxes. They can't even pay their bills. That's just too funny. We need government intervention, say victims of the latest inundation in KZN, the Margate flooding. My goodness. Numerous homes were destroyed by heavy rains along the south coast. Community leader Selvin Chetty said some residents had to be evacuated. I should think so. Look at that disaster right there. Wow. My goodness. Several residents have been evacuated after their homes in Margate were destroyed and infrastructure damage was caused by heavy rain, thunderstorms, and flooding, and the wrath of God. This is what happens when you consider voting for the ANC. God strikes you down. No, seriously, just kidding here. Wow, the mayor, Shkumbuzu Mkwadi, led a delegation of money during a visit to Margate. The heavy downpours also caused extensive damage to businesses, households, infrastructure. Several roads and businesses remain closed in Margate as mop-up operations continue. Mop-up operations sounds like military speak there to me. Jacob Zuma says, "I'm sorry." Sorry is the hardest word to say. That's right. Jacob Zuma apologizes for this event. "I just want you to stay. After all that we've been through, I will make it up to you. I promise to. And after all that's been said and done, you're just the part of me I can't let go. Couldn't stand to be kept away just for the day from your body. Wouldn't want to be swept away, far away from the one that I love. Hold me now. It's hard for me to say I'm sorry." Jay-Z apologizes for not attending. Oh, look at that. Almost nobody's there. Here's his supporters. That's who actually showed up. So Jay-Z, you don't have to apologize. 30 people showed up. Former President Jacob Zuma's MK party found it hard to crack one of the ANC strongholds, Eastern Cape, as the party's first planned rally in Port Elizabeth flopped. Zuma was expected to address a rally in Motherwell, Nelson Mandela Bay, which only a handful of people attended, but he didn't even show up. He was double booked. Oh, sorry is the hardest word in English language. And Jay-Z out there apologizing. Meanwhile, 5 members of the Economic Freedom Fighters have been reappointed to the Nicklin Municipal Council. Yes, their mayoral committee, the MACO. Yeah, these ghouls are still at it. So 5 EFF members were elected into Nicklин's 10-member Mayoral Executive Committee, or MACO, on Monday. The newly appointed mayor, the ANC's Nkosas Indifile Zakakaza, announced the new MMCs. The ANC and the EFF are coalition partners in the city that they're destroying together. EFF candidates were Tembi Msane, Unkulukuleku Dunga, Lishaka Manamela, Bridget Tusi, and Kogopelo Holo. Yes, there you go. Wow, congratulations. You've destroyed Nicklin, which you took from the DA coalition, and set Tanya Campbell out on the street. The truth behind Eskom's load shedding success. Ladies and gentlemen, I've been telling you all along, the reason Eskom is having success is, number one, they're burning through their diesel budget and running generators, overrunning them, overcooking them. But number two, demand is cratering. South Africans are not turning to the state utility for their electricity. More and more South African businesses and individuals at homes now have solar, photovoltaic, a few with wind, alternative sources of energy, because Eskom is a dead fossil. Data published by Eskom's tracking of its performance of fleet for the first quarter shows that while the group has improved breakdowns and slightly boosted energy supply, tanking demand has given South Africa some breathing room. Detailed analysis of Eskom's data by independent energy analyst Peter Jordan shows that the first quarter power demand was 5.7% lower than the same period. Wow, dropping from 26 gigabytes to 24.5 gigabytes. Gigawatts, excuse me, not gigabytes, gigawatts. Yeah, power supply barely increased by just 0.4%. Virtually no increase, but demand is tanking. People are not relying on Eskom, and that's why it's able to keep the lights on. So don't be fooled. People had to take money out of their pockets, out of their wallets. They've had to borrow money to install solar photovoltaic because of the inept, corrupt racketeering scheme known as Eskom under the tutelage and administration of the African National Congress. And so people have gone elsewhere for electricity. Well, the Independent Electoral Commission claims it's 95% ready for next month's elections. We're about 6 weeks away from the elections, and the IEC says they're 95% ready. Never mind that pesky lawsuit or that trial they're trying to overturn the decision by the corrupt electoral court, the captured electoral court, which violated South Africa's constitution in determining that Jacob Zuma was eligible to run for parliament and stand for president, neither of which are legitimate or valid. This is lawlessness of the highest order. But the IEC says it's ready for the elections, 95% ready. With Election Day around the corner, the IEC is moving full steam ahead with preparations, with only the finalization of ballot papers outstanding. More than 95% logistical supplies for Election Day was in the process of distributing 1,873 tons of material to between warehousing and storage facilities around the country. That is insane. That's what it takes to conduct this election. Can you imagine what it's like here in America, how much paper it takes? Or China, or India, the world's largest democracy, India, with 1 billion people voting. Devet Martins is back. Been a long time. 94% of elections go well. Yeah, sure they do. Yes. Ace Magashuli's former personal assistant has been arrested in the United States. Oh, no. Over the asbestos deal. Wow. Finally, some action taking place there, folks. Ace Magashuli's former personal assistant arrested in the United States. The National Prosecuting Authority says they will extradite this person. National Prosecuting Authority said it will soon commence with the extradition process of Moradi Cholata, the former personal assistant of Ace Magashule. On Monday, Magashule, the former Free State Premier, together with his co-accused, appeared at Free State High Court in Bloemfontein for the 255 million rand asbestos tender scam. The court was told that Cholata, currently studying in the United States, has been arrested by authorities in the U.S. and was expected to appear before their courts. Thereafter, an extradition process would commence. Cholata is seen as a pivotal witness for the state. Wow. Crazy stuff. Well, she's coming back to America, or from America to South Africa. So relations aren't that frosty. Chinese nationals arrested for abalone poaching. This is a story I've talked about many, many times over the years. This is disastrous for South Africa's environment. It is poaching. It's illegal. It's devastating abalone populations and having impact on maritime waters. But this goes on unabated because the South African criminals allow criminals from China free access to the country. Chinese nationals arrested for possession of 6.5 million of abalone. Why are these two people in South Africa? Two Chinese nationals sentenced in Kailicha Priority Court after they were found in possession of abalone at an illegal fish processing facility. Qiao Yuan He, 28, and Ji Zhong Lang, 27, were arrested during a joint operation for the Hawks and Serious Organized Crime Investigating Team based in Belleville. Crime Intelligence, Counter-Narcotics, and Gangs Western Cape, as well as the Department of Forestry, Fisheries, and the Environment. They entered a plea into the agreement with the state. There you go. Look at that abalone. In October of 2021, the members executed a search warrant at Welgemoed in Belleville, and arrival was established the premise was being used as an illegal fish processing facility. Discovered and seized 11,321 units of dried abalone, estimated street value of $6.5 million. So this is from 2021. They're just now waiting to be charged. All that abalone, all those creatures killed, poached. That's money for South Africa and damage to the natural environment as well. Ladies and gentlemen, I hate to break the news to you, but South Africa is shedding high net worth individuals at an incredibly shocking rate. Wealthy South Africans are abandoning South Africa in numbers never before seen, leaving the country, getting that golden parachute, that escape parachute ready to get out of the country, and many have simply left already. Latest Africa Wealth Report for 2024 shows South Africa has continued to bleed millionaires, with 400 wealthy individuals calling it quits or losing their millionaire status because their market value declined. The devastation to the rand also lowers the number of genuine dollar millionaires. So, New World Wealth shows that South Africa has 37,400 high net worth individuals. That's 400 fewer than 2022 and down 11,300 since 2013. Since 2013, South Africa has lost nearly a quarter of its high net worth individuals. This is not good. High net worth individuals are the people who invest in your economy. They're the ones that build small businesses, that build corporations, that make jobs available. When they leave, we've got a problem. Yep. High net worth individuals are defined as those with liquid investable wealth exceeding $1 million or 19 million rand. And you've lost another 400 last year. Crazy stuff going on. South Africa's solar boom is worsening inequality, so tells us Bloomberg, the captured media outlet, which once upon a time was a very reliable business site, but nothing but a captured leftist piece of crap, now owned by former Mayor Mike Bloomberg, the fake Republican who's really just a leftist wolf in disguise. Bloomberg says that solar photovoltaic is increasing inequality. Never mind the fact that they're not paying attention, because this report is dishonest, about the thousands of low-income South Africans who've benefited from gifts from the government, who've provided them free solar at the expense of taxpayers. Yeah, they forget to tell you about that part. But yes, this is a consequence of people getting off the grid. It's not the people who bought the solar panels' fault that Eskom is corrupt, inept, and useless. That's not their fault. That's the ANC's fault. So stop this inequality nonsense. This is more endless race hustling and pandering. That's what we're talking about here. Yep. Only the wealthy can afford to become self-sufficient and avoid electricity blackouts, says Lara Williams. Well, Lara is an opinion columnist, and her opinion is not really all that valuable because she doesn't know her ass from a hole in the ground, clearly. You can tell her I said that. She didn't bother to talk about the low-income schemes that are done out there. And it doesn't matter. The inequality is not a consequence of people buying solar photovoltaic panels. It's a consequence of Eskom. Nobody would need to buy these panels if Eskom did its job properly. Nobody had to buy these panels years ago because Eskom was doing its job properly. Once considered the best utility, public utility in the entire world 20 years ago. What a sad state of affairs in South Africa now. Devette Martin says, I hope you understand when we push back. Did you say something? Abalone, about 250 for 500 grams. The only thing I saw that you said was 94% elections go well. What are you pushing back on? What are you pushing back on, Devette Martins? You're welcome to push back at any time. People are welcome to challenge my analysis, the information I provide. You can challenge at any time. You can go find it on your own. I encourage people to think for themselves. Absolutely. but you'll get the real deal here. That's why people come here. But please explain to me what it is you're pushing back on. The cost of abalone? I didn't make a comment on the cost of abalone. I commented on what the news article said the street value of it was. Anyway, so that's the media reporting that, not me. Pushback, I meant independence. Okay, what are you pushing back for? I'm not advocating independence for anybody. What are we talking about, brother? I'm entering a conversation I don't know I'm in. You're gonna have to give me a little more information in order for me to respond to that. Because what independence? Whose independence? All right. So if you are using Starlink in South Africa illegally because you've purchased the license or you had the equipment from another state that has it, like Mozambique or elsewhere, you're going to be cut off. Starlink is going to cut you off. The racist legislation from the corrupt African National Congress is preventing Starlink from doing business in South Africa, and now they're going to cut you off if you're abroad. South African users of Elon Musk's Starlink will be cut off at the end of the month. If you're operating your Starlink kit in an area other than areas designated as available on the Starlink availability map, we would like to remind you that this is in violation of Starlink terms, and starting April 30th, you will be unable to connect to the internet except to access your Starlink account where you can make updates to your account. Yeah, well, of course, we know that ICASA demanded that they gift 30% of their equity to someone based on their skin pigmentation. That, of course, is what we call racism. Elections 2024, Rise Mzansi is picking a fight with the Democratic Alliance. Yep, saying the DA's backlog of 600,000 houses. I'm sorry, Rise Mzansi's Western Cape Premier. This guy looks like he's about 7 years old. Aksole Notwawale. You do realize that money comes from the national government. Housing backlog is a clear example of the Western Cape-led government's failures. The DA fails to understand the living conditions of families in poor communities, and it's hogwash for John Steenhuisen to claim he's leading a province that works. Well, it's also disingenuous and an outright lie by this gentleman to make such a stupid statement. It shows you just how pandering and useless these people are. They don't know the facts. I'm not defending the DA, but attacking the DA because there's a backlog of houses. There's a reason there's a backlog of 600,000 houses in the Western Cape, you freaking moron, from Rise Mzansi. It's because you fuckers keep moving there. That's why. That's why. People keep moving there and saturating the Western Cape. There wouldn't be a backlog of 600,000 if people quit emigrating and immigrating into Western Cape from the rest of the country, fleeing the ANC's malgovernance. That's the bottom line. That's the bottom line. He added, if the Western Cape is truly the best run province in South Africa, then Rise Mzansi failed to understand why communities like Imizamo, Yetu, and Hout Bay, which had routinely been devastated by numerous fires the last years, were not being provided adequate, safe housing. It's not the job of government to give you housing. Why do people think governments who steal from productive parts of society are responsible for giving them housing? It's unnatural. It goes against the laws of nature and God. Government doesn't provide housing, and where it does, it fails. It's not the responsibility of government to provide housing, even in South Africa, for historically disadvantaged peoples. At what point does the discrimination and racist laws against the minority population turn them into the historically disadvantaged group? 5 years? 10 years? 20 years? 30 years? 1,000 years? Good luck is full independence. I don't know what you're talking about, Devet Martins, with independence to Western Cape, Northern Cape. I have no idea what you're talking about there, brother. I can't keep up with that. Are you advocating for those places to be independent? I mean, that basically just says all that's left is KZN and Gauteng, or did I get it backwards? Right. What's this? I'm offline. Togo announces they're finally going to have their elections. Their delayed legislative elections are taking place on April 29th. Yep, they're rescheduled after delaying the ballot over contested constitutional reform. So the government put this out last week. Togo's rescheduled legislative elections for the 29th of April after delaying the ballot over a highly contested constitutional reform. A government statement said on Tuesday. Meanwhile, Zimbabwe has introduced a gold-backed currency in an effort to fight inflation and get off the U.S. dollar. Good luck with that, Zimbabwe. Look at that. The new colorful monopoly money that Zimbabwe is issuing, claiming it's backed by gold. But let me tell you something, folks. I bet you if you go to claim that gold from the Zimbabwean treasury, you won't be given gold. Zimbabwe's sixth attempt at a new currency since 2008. Inflation in Zimbabwe is a new currency again. Last week, the central bank introduced a new gold-backed currency called the ZiG, the Zimbabwe Gold, the ZiG. What's next? The ZAG? The ZiG, the ZAG. I think it's time not just for Jacob Zuma, but it's also time for ZANU-PF to say, couldn't stand to be kept away just for the day from your body. Wouldn't want to be swept away, far away from the one that I love. Hold me now. We love Robert Gabriel Mugabe. Wow. The ZiG, the ZiG. Zimbabwe's new currency making headlines around the world. Yeah, latest attempt to stabilize their corrupt economy. Annual inflation is at 55%, a 7-month high. And the old currency, known as the RTGS, lost 3/4 of its value this year alone. 85% of transactions are conducted in the U.S. dollar. That's right, back in the USSA. Yeah, in the USA, not USSR. Yeah, Zimbabwe. But unfortunately, they don't have enough of these new ZiGs to give out to everybody. So people are zagging, going back to the dollar, ladies and gentlemen. In Zimbabwe, Zimbabweans are forced to use U.S. dollar in the absence of the new currency. Yep. Zimbabwe's informal traders now who account for 75% of all employment have stopped accepting the Zim dollar, also known as RTGS, fearing its value has declined. The new ZiG currency, supposed to be effective April 8th, isn't, and is supposed to be out now on April 30th, which means it's a dollar economy, baby. It's a hard luck life for us. It's a hard luck life for us. Ooh, yeah, baby, get some of them dollars out there. Yeah, we got some coins in. Yeah, ooh, look at that. Don't get excited. Those are ones. Those are all ones. But yeah, this will make me a king in Zimbabwe. This will make me a king in Zimbabwe. Yeah, look at those ones. Yeah. Ooh, baby. Oh, baby. Let's add them up there. Ooh, yeah, yeah, yeah. Ooh, show me the money. Show me the money. Our nearly worthless currency destroyed by corrupt venal politicians in Washington, D.C., and their willing fellow travelers in corporate America, undermining our currency, printing non-existent currency, burying us in debt, mortgaging our future, and compromising our national security has made our dollar almost worthless. But next to the Zim dollar, we're like kings. Woo, baby. That's right. So, Mali, the military junta that overthrew the democratically elected but corrupt government of Mali, has banned the media from covering politics. Can you imagine that? South Africa's legacy media not covering politics? What would they do? Talk about abalone? Wow. Mali's junta has issued an order that bans media from reporting on activities of political parties and associations. Issued by Mali's high authority for communication, the order was distributed on social media. It applies to all forms of media, including television, radio, online, and print newspapers. The ban came one day after the junta suspended all activities by political parties until further notice. The military pointed to a need to maintain public order as the reason behind the ban. Well, let me just tell you this, Mali. I defy you and I ignore your order, your illegal order to ban reporting on political activity in Mali. And I'll continue to do so. There you go. I'm in Pennsylvania and I live right here. So the military scumbags that overthrew the government in Mali, good luck to you. I will continue to report on your corrupt, thieving military junta into perpetuity until you are gone and the people of Mali have a legitimate government back in charge. Screw you, brother. The United Kingdom is lifting tariffs on East African cut flower imports. Woo! For a whole 2 years. Artificial measures making people more competitive don't seem to work. The United Kingdom announced a temporary suspension of export tariffs on cut flowers from East Africa, effective April 11th, so that's 5 days ago. Up till June 30th of 2026, it marks a pivotal moment in trade dynamics between the UK and East African nations. By removing the export tariffs for a period of 2 years, the UK aims to streamline trade processes and reduce costs associated with exporting flowers. This initiative not only enhances the competitiveness of East African flower exports, but strengthens the economic ties. And now all it does is take money out of the exchequer's hand in the United Kingdom and give an advantage to East Africans that Southern Africans and others no longer enjoy. So whatever. Whatever. You can call it whatever you want. It's your prerogative to have tariffs or not. Well, the world's first ever 5-in-1 jab against the dreaded meningitis, which can have deadly effects. Meningitis, Nigeria is field testing. Ooh, does that mean they're testing on black folks? In the world's first, Nigeria introduces a new 5-in-1 vaccine against meningitis. This report from the captured World Health Organization. Health workers roll out immunization campaign aiming to reach 1 million people. Yep. In a historic move, Nigeria has become the first country in the world to roll out a new vaccine called Men5CV, recommended by the corrupt World Health Organization, which protects people against 5 strains of meningococcus bacteria. The vaccine emergency vaccination activities are funded by Gavi, the Vaccine Alliance, which funds the global meningitis vaccine stockpile. Nigeria is one of 26 meningitis hyper-endemic countries in Africa, situated in an area known as the African Meningitis Belt. Last year was a 50% jump in annual cases across Africa. Dr. Tedros weighed in on this. Meningitis is an old and deadly foe, but this new jab holds the potential to change the trajectory of the disease, preventing future outbreaks and saving many lives, says the captured corrupt Dr. Tedros from, of course, Ethiopia, the man who hid cholera outbreaks. Well, Nigerians were plunged into darkness once again for like the 5th time this year. South Africa, this is your future. This is what happens when the grid collapses. And this grid is tiny compared to South Africa's grid. Wow, 5th time this year that it's collapsed. This story by Abu Bakar Ibrahim in Business Day, the Nigerian edition. Nigerians thrown into darkness as the nation's power grid experienced another collapse in the early hours yesterday. According to data obtained from the Nigerian System Operators Portal, oh my gosh, the website is Nigrid, niggrid.org, between 2 a.m. and the time of the filing. The grid recorded an unprecedented 0 megawatts at the time and is currently generating a meager 52 megawatts at 7 o'clock this morning. Wow, that's crazy. Well, on the same day, I should say, not this morning. It's the 5th grid collapse this year. Wow. Nigeria just cannot get it done. Big country, 210 million people thereabouts. Nigeria's power grid collapsed after they hiked the rates for the wealthiest consumers by 230%. You think you're paying a lot for electricity in South Africa or here in America? The Nigerians are trying to wean themselves from state subsidies. President Tinubu and his predecessor trying to wean people and actually make them pay the true cost. 230% tariff hike. That's a big jump, big jump. Nigeria's electricity regulator on April 3rd approved an increase in tariffs for the 15% of consumers who use the most power, as the government tries to reduce $2.6 billion worth of subsidies for the sector, which is crazy. Who subsidizes to that level? The country only has 12.5 gigawatts of installed capacity. By comparison, South Africa is supposed to have 52 gigawatts of installed capacity, but we all know that on a good day, it's lucky to produce 25 gigawatts. Crazy. Chad, their interim president, the son of the killed former president Debe, is going to have a campaign. Chad's interim president, Mahamat Idris Debe, kicked off his presidential campaign for an election next month, meant to end 3 years of military rule, on a promise to strengthen security and boost the economy. Debe's government is one of several military juntas that seized power in West and Central Africa since 2020. Yep, Chad is one of the first to organize elections despite regional and international pressure to swiftly hand power back to civilians. He says, you know me, I'm a soldier and I hold my promises. He said, barely visible behind a barrier of bodyguards. We will strengthen internal security to guarantee peace and stability in our country. Will you really? He had promised to return to civilian rule within 18 months, but that was a long time ago, 3 years ago. 3 years ago. Yep, so don't take him at his word. Israel's war cabinet meeting once again, 3rd time after looking for a response to Iran's attack. Israel's war cabinet set to meet for the 3rd time in 3 days today to decide on a response to Iran's first ever direct attack amid international pressure to avoid further escalating the conflicts in the Middle East. Military Chief of Staff Herzi Halavi had promised that Saturday night's launch of more than 300 missiles, cruise missiles, and drones from Iran Israeli territory will be met with a response, but gave no details. And the world awaits with bated breath as failed Joe Biden has little to say on the issue. Well, ladies and gentlemen, another example of why people being disarmed is a bad idea. A knife attack, this time another one in Australia, in Sydney. It's been deemed a terrorist act. Teenage suspect detained over attack that wounded a bishop and priest and triggered a riot in Sydney suburb of Wakeley. Police in Australia have arrested a 15-year-old boy over a knife attack on a bishop and his followers at an Orthodox Assyrian church in Sydney, declaring the assault a terrorist act motivated by suspected religious extremism. The attack took place at a service at Christ the Good Shepherd Church and was being live-streamed Monday evening. Wounded Bishop Mari Emmanuel and a priest. Both are expected to survive. Police arrested the teenager at the scene and were forced to hold him in a church for his own safety as an angry crowd of followers of the bishop gathered outside. The crowd went on to clash with police for more than 3 hours. Wow. The Australian Security Intelligence Organization, the nation's main domestic spy agency, and the Australian Federal Police have joined state police in a counter-terrorism task force to investigate whether anyone else was involved. So, this is what you get when you let people in your country who have no business being there. Well, Air New Zealand is flying on cow flatulence. No, they're flying on alternative fuel, the false term sustainable aviation fuel, SAF. Yep, Air New Zealand will buy 9 million liters from Nest, a Finnish company, of sustainable aviation fuel at Los Angeles International Airport, LAX. They claim to be leading the way towards net zero emissions and announced a deal to take on 9 million liters, and I will take on 0 flights with Air New Zealand in the future. Air New Zealand has made clear that it wants to be the forefront of commercial aviation's march towards net zero emissions by 2050. They have a thriving domestic regional operation. The bulk of its carbon emissions come from long-haul flying across the Pacific or to Asia using Boeing Dreamliners and 777-300 wide bodies. While new propulsion technologies such as hydrogen continue to develop, the airline has identified that it needs sustainable aviation fuel to reach its interim decarbonization goals. And it's not sitting on its hands waiting. So they're going to buy it. Yes, they announced they'd signed an agreement with Neste, a Finnish company, to purchase 9 million liters or 2.4 million gallons of this sustainable aviation fuel. And you might wonder, what is sustainable aviation fuel? Well, folks, it's made from animal fats and recycled cooking oil. Yep. So Nest recycles cooking oil and turns it into aviation fuel. According to Radio Free Asia, Myanmar's military junta suffers another defeat as junta soldiers surrender in ethnic army's first Tainin Tahri win. The joint forces will begin operations in 2 nearby townships. Nearly 50 junta soldiers surrendered to an ethnic armed group in southern Myanmar, its political wing announced. The Karen National Union's armed branch, the Karen National Liberation Army, intercepted junta troops in the region. Commander Lieutenant Colonel Ong Hein, leader of the junta's Mayak-based infantry battalion 103, surrendered to the Karen Army's Brigade 4. Wow. So there you go. Things are not going well for the junta in Myanmar, and they shouldn't. Well, folks, if you think that you're alone, don't fret. Let's take a look at the world's loneliest house, so said by Express in the UK. Check this out. This is the story of a house in Iceland. The world's loneliest house sits on its own in the middle of nowhere on a deserted island in Iceland, one of the loneliest places in the world. Look at that island. That's pretty cool, huh? Just juts up out of the ocean. A small building on a tiny island known as the world's loneliest house and is shrouded in mystery. The home is located on Elonoi, a 110-acre island within the Vestmannaeyjar archipelago off southern Iceland. Theories about it include ideas that a religious hermit lives there, that it was gifted to iconic singer Björk by the Icelandic government, or that it's a billionaire's apocalypse bolt hole, all of which have been debunked. The island is now deserted, but it's been inhabited up until the 1930s. Throughout its history, residents who lived there relied on fishing, hunting puffins, and raised... Oh, who hunts puffins? Why would you hunt a puffin? They're such cool little birds, man. They look like something for Fruit Loops. Puffins. And raising cattle. But the reality of the mysterious house is less exciting. It's simply a hunting lodge surrounded by a wire fence. Room for 10 beds. And there you go. You can see the island from above. And you can see how it is off the coast of Iceland. That's kind of cool, huh? Check it out. Fascinating stuff there. Little lighthearted moment in the midst of all the horrific news. In Copenhagen, the Borsa, the old stock exchange, caught fire and has collapsed partially. Yeah, no, not the puffins. The 17th century building, one of the city's best known structures, was once the financial center of Denmark, and that is what it looks like now. They must have been doing some work on it, and it caught fire. The old stock exchange building in downtown Copenhagen, one of the city's oldest structures, known for its elaborate spire of intertwined dragon tails, partly collapsed in a large fire early this morning. No one was injured, according to King Frederick X, the monarch of Denmark. Images and video from social media showed flames of the structure's roof and dark clouds of smoke lingering over the city. Not clear what caused the blaze, but what a loss. Difficult to work in large parts of the building, said Jacob Vestrid Andersen. Imagine that, a Dane named Anderson. The executive director of the Greater Copenhagen Fire Department. The entire structure is collapsed inside, so there are pockets of fire, but there's no danger of it spreading to other buildings. Jakob Engelschmidt, more like a German there, Denmark's culture minister, said in an interview early today that it was dreadful to see the building in flames. The building represents over 400 years of Danish history. The Borzen, the Danish name for the building, it's one of the last structures in the world in Dutch Renaissance style where trade has been conducted throughout the entire period. It's unfortunate, folks. Of course, Copenhagen was never bombed during the war. The Germans captured Denmark with nary a shot being fired as the Danish military, under the direction of the monarch, surrendered mostly, and they never bombed Copenhagen. The Allies never bombed either, so it was one of the few European cities involved in the conflict that was untouched by bombing campaigns. And it's a beautiful city, lovely city. Well, Oversight Project sounds the alarm on a non-government organization recruiting criminal alien invaders to vote for Joe Biden. Yep. And this is made possible by mail-in ballots. Oversight Project sounds alarm over flyers being distributed at NGO encouraging illegals to vote for Joe Biden. Oversight Project shared a bombshell report by Muckraker on Twitter Monday, showcasing flyers distributed by a non-government organization encouraging illegals to vote for Biden. The flyer reads in Spanish, "Reminder to vote for President Biden when you are in the United States. We need another 4 years of his term to stay open." Wow. Oversight Project, part of the Heritage Foundation, posted the details on X. These flyers were discovered by Muckraker throughout the Resource Center Matamoros location, including on the walls of porta potties. The account explained they also appear to be handed out when illegal aliens use RCM for assistance in coming to the USA. RCM founder Gabby Zavala replied to Ruckmaker that she wants to help as many illegals as possible before President Trump is reelected. Oversight Project stated the organization bills itself as an operation that helps illegal aliens enter the United States, one that has ties to both the U.S. Department of Homeland Security Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas and leftist billionaire donor George Soros' Open Society Foundation. RCM has significant ties to Soros-funded nonprofits operating in the United States, including Save the Children, Team Brownsville, Texas, Angry Tias, and Abuelas. Oversight explained. Wow. Isn't that just crazy, folks? Isn't that just crazy? Joe Biden stumping in Pennsylvania, coming to the Keystone State, where he claims to be from Scranton. We all know that's a lie. Anyway, I'm from Earth. I don't know where Joe Biden's from, but he claims to be from Scranton. The man who spent barely a day in Scranton. In his hometown, they claim, the president expected to discuss the tax code in terms of economic fairness, arguing that Donald Trump's tax cuts benefited millionaires. Billionaires, of course, that is untrue. It benefited all Americans. In fact, lower-income Americans got a higher tax break than the wealthy. But, of course, the liar in chief, the fraud in chief, the pay-for-play in chief, Joe Biden, will lie about everything. Yep. The Department of Homeland Security is monitoring 617,000 criminal alien invaders. Stop that. Criminal alien invaders with criminal records. They know that there are 617,000 criminal alien invaders in our midst who already have criminal records. Why are they here? Why have they not been put on a bus or dumped it on the other side of the border in Canada or Mexico, wherever they came from, crossed the border illegally? Some 264 illegal immigrants, criminal alien invaders, sit in a jail in Tarrant County, Texas. And among them, they face 8 counts of murder. Wow. The illegal immigrants also face 38 counts of assault with a deadly weapon, 5 counts of sexual assault, 2 counts of possession of child pornography, and 1 count of intoxicated homicide, and more than 200 other assorted counts. These offenders, many of which are gang members and outlaws, have left nothing untouched, says the sheriff. While I do not necessarily think these aliens have a higher crime rate, just the fact these people are illegal in our country and committed crimes is the impact. Wow. Sheriff Wayborn will testify to the National Security Board and Foreign Affairs Subcommittee, chaired by Representative Glenn Grotham of Wisconsin. Hearing is titled How the Border Crisis Impacts Public Safety. Mr. Grotham, the representative, in remarks kicking off the hearing, said illegal immigrants flooding into the country have swollen the docket at U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement, which is now monitoring more than 6 million illegal immigrants. Some 617,000 of those either have criminal convictions or are pending criminal charges. The fact that illegal aliens should not be in the country in the first place and able to commit these crimes. Solutions aren't hard. Yeah, get rid of them. 617,000 known criminals they're monitoring. Really? They're monitoring? I seriously doubt that. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we have turned our country into a cesspool of anti-Semitic, anti-Christian, disgusting, vile, hate-filled cesspool by allowing our borders to let anybody come in this country who has no affinity, no allegiance to this country whatsoever for the past 35, 40 years. And now we're paying the price for it with scumbag, dirtbags, anti-Semitic, I'll stop there with profanity, hateful people blocking our roads, interfering with public safety, and causing chaos. This is not Europe. Take your garbage back there. Pro-Palestinian demonstrators shut down airport, highways, and bridges in major cities. Pro-Palestinian demonstrators blocked roadways in Illinois, California, New York, and the Pacific Northwest, temporarily shutting down travel into some of the nation's most heavily used airports, into the Golden Gate and Brooklyn bridges and on the busy West Coast highway. In Chicago, protesters linked arms and blocked lanes on Interstate I-90 or 190 leading to the O'Hare International Airport at 7 a.m. in a demonstration they said was part of a global economic blockade to free Palestine. Traffic in the San Francisco Bay area was snarled for hours as demonstrators shut down all vehicle, pedestrian, bike traffic on the Golden Gate Bridge and chained themselves to 55-gallon drums filled with cement across Interstate 880 in Oakland. Protesters marched into Brooklyn, blocked Manhattan-bound traffic on the Brooklyn Bridge. In Eugene, Oregon, protesters blocked Interstate 5, shutting down traffic on the highway for about 45 minutes. Try that in a small town. Try that crap in a small town. See how far you make it down the road. Yeah, this nonsense needs to be stopped immediately. They must be imprisoned for their crimes. And if they're not American citizens, deported. Homeless New York migrant, criminal alien invader, who swiped historic fire department New York boat freed without bail. Yeah, immediately strikes again. Boat boys back at it, and they can't even ship him home. The homeless criminal alien invader who was busted joyriding an historic fire department New York fireboat, then swiping a sailboat for another leisurely ride, was released without bail Friday, only to immediately try to climb aboard an even bigger ship in Manhattan. Welcome to New York, said Eric Fisher, vice president of the Friday ship, the Frying Pan. Juan Hernandez, 22 of Ecuador, was set free by Judge Marva Brown, who should be disbarred on Friday morning after allegedly taking the former FDNY-owned vessel John J. Harvey on a wild journey down the Hudson early Thursday before swiping a sailboat in Chelsea for another jaunt. By noon Friday, the alleged boat bandit was back on the street and trying to get on board the Frying Pan, a 133-foot light ship that boasts a popular floating restaurant at Pier 66. A bar worker on the ship said he confronted Hernandez after spotting him trying to slip through a gate. The criminal alien invader was wearing khakis and a black hoodie with an orange logo on the back. I was like, what the F are you doing here? I told him to go away, started talking crap, and he ran away. So here's the scumbag right there. Another scumbag, disgusting, vile piece of human feces who has no business in this country and being tolerated by the lawlessness behavior of folks in New York. Well, Supreme Court has allowed Idaho to enforce laws banning gender transition drugs and surgeries for minors. Wow. Supreme Court agreed to let Idaho enforce its ban on gender transition drugs and surgeries for minors, overruling a lower court injunction, except in the cases of 2 transgender teenagers who sued to halt the 2023 state law. The court sided with Idaho Attorney General Raul Labrador in sharply narrowing the preliminary injunction issued in December, meaning that only the 2 teens, aged 15 and 16, will be able to continue to access puberty blockers and sex change hormones while the legal fight plays out. Ordinarily, injunctions like these may go no further than necessary to provide interim relief. So, they are able to continue to block this abomination of destroying the lives of our youth. Well, the Wall Street Journal breathlessly reports on the tanking of Donald Trump's stock, failing to tell you that this is a normal situation for internet stocks. When they appear on the marketplace, the initial public offering, they shoot up and they immediately start to decline to a level that's acceptable. But the Wall Street Journal, the once proud, unbiased business publication, which long ago became captured by leftist interests, now breathlessly tells you that Donald Trump's stock is tanking. It is, but that's not really the story. Shares down 60% for recent peak after 3 weeks of trading. Of course, they've gone back up. They dropped below $20 a share, and they shot back up to $70, and now they're back down to 20-something. Up and down, up and down. This is what happens. This is what happens. Donald Trump's hot social media company stock has turned cold, wiping more than $3 billion off his windfall in the first 3 months of trading. Shares of Truth Social, the presidential candidate's social media upstart, have fallen 60% from their recent peak. The money-losing company was worth roughly $9 billion shortly before it started trading last month. Yeah, and Facebook didn't have a profit, and they were worth $12, $15, $18 billion when they went public, something like that. You get the figure and prove me wrong. They were worth a fortune, and they had no profits. What's your point? Yeah, this is dishonest reporting from a once proud publication, now captured by leftist interest, more determined to spread bad news and mislead their readers than actually report the facts. Caitlin Clark, as expected, goes as the number one pick in the WNBA. What is the WNBA, you ask? It's a smaller version of the NBA, a predominantly black rich league in this country, full of multimillionaire black athletes, excluding white athletes. Over 78% of the NBA are black millionaires, rich people. And the WNBA is not much different. A handful more of white players allowed to play in that league. So, Caitlin Clark selected number one by the Indiana Fever with the pick in this draft. Boy, she looks tall there, but she's not that tall. So, 8 days after completing one of the greatest collegiate basketball careers ever recorded, Caitlin Clark was selected with the number one pick in Monday's WNBA draft. No one's ever heard of the WNBA draft until Caitlin Clark. Boy, her skirt is really short, isn't it? Anyway, she's poised to not only help the Indiana Fever, return to the postseason for the first time since 2016, but also use her star power to jolt the WNBA at a critical juncture in its boring history. I've been to WNBA games in D.C., and they were boring. It was like playing in a high school basketball arena. I wanted to like it, but frankly, it wasn't that interesting or likable. Right, let's go back to the chat where people have jumped in here. Let's see what was being said earlier. He dropped out of the chat, but he had a lot to say earlier. Devet Martens. Okay. There it goes. All right. Pushback. He was talking about, hey, can you see my comment above regarding South African Weather Service? Patrick. I don't see any comment from Patrick up here. Hey, Liam and R, how you doing? Nope, I don't see your comment. You must have written something that upset them, Patrick. The censors at YouTube. Fresh fish in Portugal, 48 euros for 1,000 grams. Wow, that's crazy. Jax is here. Charles Van Onselen, the voice of reason. What alternatives we have instead of solar? George, no, the point isn't that it's solar. The point is they're trying to turn into a race thing once again. Oh, it's unfair to the poor. Actually, it's very fair to the poor. It's unfair to the people who have the resources to have to spend their money to install their own infrastructure to deliver electricity for themselves because the state is incapable of doing it. Every person that goes off the grid who has money, whether you borrow it to install it or you're wealthy enough to install it out of your pocket, every single person that leaves the grid, that leaves more electricity for the poor. So this is just nonsense. This is race hustling 101. This is scumbag reporting. And whoever that lady was I mentioned earlier who's doing this at Bloomberg, another leftist loser. Tell the truth. Solar photovoltaic does not create inequality. In fact, it increases equality in services because the poor who aren't paying for electricity have more electricity available. Every person leaves the grid, reduces the demand on the national grid, and thereby frees up electricity for the people who aren't even paying for it. So how's that inequitable? It's inequitable to the wealthy. It's not inequitable to the poor. They come out like a rose. Full independence is what Devet says. So there's nobody left of that except Calteng and KZN. Scientists' houses from the planet. Beverly Nawakal, welcome back, Bev. Good to see you again. And there's Myra Page. Hans Fundameva says, if you are streetwise, RSA is still the place to be. I will not be able to sustain my quality living outside this country. I must keep up working towards solving problems. Your blog helps. Hans, yeah, well, being streetwise is great, and that's probably why I'm alive, and probably why many of you are alive, being streetwise and being aware of your surroundings. But that's exhausting, and it's stressful, and it shortens people's lives and ruins their blood pressure, and you know, it's you shouldn't have to live like that. I left the keys in my car last night when I came back. Just left them sitting in the car on the seat. Forgot about it. I was rushed in to get in here. I took care of something. And a few hours later, I'm like, where are my keys? Well, they're in my car. No one stole it. Didn't have to worry about that. My neighborhood. No, but I get your point, Hans. Yes. Kurtz Verhoeven says, because the world's beloved ANC promised free everything for black people. Yep, they did, and they lied. Christine watched that documentary in Minneapolis. Yeah, Chris, I've said all along that KZN will take independence first. By the way, people mentioned to me that no one has seen my election videos, so let's just put that out there again. I mean, I did this. It's interesting. So coalition scenarios, view on YouTube. Let me get that one. So that video, people said they didn't know about it. Well, that's because YouTube hides my stuff, man. Oh, Dave McCormick running for the Senate. Yep. So this is the link to that. So you can go check that out at your leisure. Or leisure, if you prefer to say it that way. That is the link to my video on potential coalitions. I mean, I'm actually quite disappointed. I put a lot of effort into that video. It's a 6.5-minute video, and I thought it was very fair and a reasonable expectation of what is awaiting South Africans, and also should be an eye-opener. Been 2,400 views. Thank you for the 2,400 who watched it, but that should be 240,000 views. Two types. Those who think Mandela had a nice smile and those who do not. Okay. Yeah, no, it starts with KZN. I mean, people talk Western Cape independence, but the Zulu Nation will go first. ZANU-PF will never lose power. Don't count on it, scientists. They're going to one day hunt them down, string them up, and execute them in the streets. That's what's going to happen. That's going to be sad, but that day is coming to Zimbabwe. I think the South Africans have a lot more to worry about should the Middle East war break out. Looks like this is going to happen. Well, there already is a war in the Middle East. It's already expanded beyond the boundaries of Gaza. You can even change that. Change what, Charles? Okay. Meghan Markle, Zig. What if we had a new party that had every race in it that could speak on behalf of their cultures instead of having separate selective racial agenda? There you go. Light Rain says, try to turn in my silver certificate, and no, they don't keep metal at the bank. Nope, they don't. They don't give it to you. Yep, can't do that. But the federal government has to give you silver for that. Yep, they still do. And they'd happily take it. That silver certificate's worth a lot more than $5 worth of silver. Street cleaners dump garbage in stormwater drains. Ew, God, Matt. Hey, Madeline Donaldson, welcome to you. How's it going? Is East Africa doing well? Not particularly. Margate flooded. Yep. It sure is. Doctor of Nothing Tedros. Exactly. Medical profession U.S. and most of the big drug companies. I don't know what that's all about. Okay. There's Pip Jacobs. Welcome to you. And Ants, welcome back. How do you think Israel should respond? Well, I think Israel should use special forces and take out key government officials responsible for the actions. That's what they should do. I don't think they should respond kinetically. They should use, just like the Soviets did. Just like, well, hey, Nesta is a Finnish company. Yes, Lori, I mentioned it. Lori, there you are. Where are you at, man? You missed this. There's Lori Lettinen. Lori, are you still here? Because that was 20 minutes ago. Lori Lettinen, you missed the broadcast. You are not showing up regularly. We have to discuss that. I was given a very special treat, something I never thought in my life I'd ever get. And people who know me know that I'm a huge fan of Finland and Estonia as well. I've been a long historical buff and fan of Finland. I'm one of the folks that knows quite a bit about the Winter War of 1939 and the Continuation War of 1941, and the story of Finlandization, as well as the history of Finland. The language, I don't speak it, but I'm familiar with its history. But I've been to Finland several times, and I've been to Estonia once. And here's the thing. I never in my wildest dreams ever thought that I would ever meet a Finnish general. But I did meet a 3-star Finnish general, the commander of the Finnish army, and I was the facilitator for his group. And for my excellence, he awarded me with a commander's coin from the commander of the Finnish army on Friday. There you go. On the back, we have this. A Finnish tank. There you go. And a soldier. How cool is that? From the commander of the Finnish army. Never in my wildest dreams I ever think I get something like that. So I will cherish that, especially given my connection to Finland. Lori, you've been absent. I've already covered this story. I'm disappointed I couldn't tell you before. But now you know. Yeah, well, there are a lot of Swedes in Öland. About 6% of Finland's population is ethnic Swedish. Yep. Amazing to see how such a small nation like New Zealand can come up with so much crap. Yep. All right. What else we got here? Light rains. Okay, garden routes. Yeah, man-eater puffins. Yeah, don't eat the puffins, man. The puffins are so cool. Theory on YouTube, visit the world's loneliest person. I don't know that story. Frightening, says Ken. Every invader has, by definition, a criminal record. Exactly, Radine, because they broke our sovereignty and invaded the country. But these are serious offenders, felons. Remember the Cuban boat lift? While some wonderful anti-communists came to America, Castro dumped his jails. That's correct. That is correct. Yep, that is correct. All right, who else? People saying hello to everybody. There's Fleshin with his Welsh flag flying proudly with the dragon on it. I mean, how cool is that? If you got a country that puts a dragon on their flag, you got to respect that, right? You got to respect that. All right. She's just had this skirt since 16. Huh? What? Dylan, you're talking about Caitlin Clark. Okay, got it. I might be going to Nature Valley towards the end of the year. I don't know about that, Erica. That's pretty cool. Yep. I hear Notre Dame is nearly ready for viewing after the fire. Oh, really? Well, it was a shame. I was there. It was still a mess. How do you feel about the future of the United States South Africa? Well, I feel the future of America will be decided in 2024. And hopefully it's a good future. But we won't fix things overnight. We have massive debt that needs to be dealt with. We have to do something about Social Security. And unfortunately, people aren't going to like it. But we can't afford this. We can't afford this. We're going to have to do away with it at some point, or we're going to have to modify it. We're going to have to do something. But Social Security will collapse under its own weight because they've stolen from it for decades. Stolen the money because they're irresponsible children in Congress, Republicans and Democrats. So I fear for the future of America, and that's why I'm running for office and spending my personal money while other people are getting backing from existing political office holders who are transferring their campaign money to cover the other candidates. While it's legal, it's an immoral action. Anyway, so that's why I'm running for office, to try to change the trajectory of things and stand out and speak up on a bigger platform than I currently have, at least domestically. So that's how I feel. South Africa, I feel bad for South Africa. It doesn't matter what happens May 29th. You do need to vote the ANC out, but it doesn't matter. The corrupt bureaucracy that the ANC's put in place will be there to sabotage your lives out of spite, out of incompetence. And it will continue for a long time until the government removes them. Meantime, you're going to have a coalition government if it's not the ANC. And the coalition government will be fractious because Rise and Mzansi, if they join in Action SA, they're going to want their bit of the apple. They're going to want their position. We deserve the deputy president. We deserve the Durka. We deserve defense. And then so it's going to be like Italy for most of its post-war history, up and down. Zola Shokashe. Did I get that wrong? If I apologize, Zola Zokashe. I'm very sorry if I got that wrong. A long time. Last joined when I was in Uppington. Now you're in Velcome. Okay, it's all good to see you there. Uppington, Velcome, a little bit different. Thanks for being here. I'm glad to see you back. Appreciate it. My primary is on April 23rd. After that, win, lose, or draw, I will be doing more effort on South Africa's elections. Although at this point, I can't promise I'll be in South Africa because I don't have my passport back yet. So I may have to do it remotely, but we'll see. But I will be covering more of it. So what's your complaint about the NBA? What's my complaint about the NBA? My complaint about the NBA is I have to listen to endless nonsense from leftists in this country about how this country is racially unfair. Really? So why is 78% of the NBA black? How is that racially unfair? Just 13% of the population is black, but 78% of the players are black. And the starting salary for a rookie is guaranteed over $900,000 per year. That's my complaint. Also, my complaint with the NBA is that they kowtow to the Chinese communists. That's my complaint with the NBA. And their interest in building the NBA in Africa isn't because they cared about bringing the game of basketball in Africa. It's because they care about money. And they see the future there. They should have done it 30 years ago. That's some of my complaints about the NBA. The other complaints about the NBA, the tickets are outrageously priced. Only for rich white people can go to these games. Other folks can't go to games. Whereas with the Golden Knights, the Vegas Golden Knights, they actually keep some of the seats from being sold to season ticket holders so that other people can buy seats, and they keep them at reasonable prices so that people can go to their games. Thankful for that. But no, the NBA, I got all kinds of problems with the NBA menage a trois. All kinds of problems. Now, some of what I just said was facetious. Let me explain. If the best players and the games that people want to see are the style that are a result of having 78% black players, I don't care. The NFL is 65% black. I don't care. Major League Baseball is 6% black. I don't care. I don't watch the NBA because it's boring. Since Jordan retired, it's the same stuff. Arrogant, asshat, prima donna, egotistical scumbags. You know, back in the day, we had the talents of Magic Johnson and Larry Bird and Robert Parrish and Kevin Johnson and even Charles Barkley. A bit of an asshat, but at least he was just a personality. And the games were exciting. The Phoenix Suns, the Utah Jazz, the Boston Celtics, the Los Angeles Lakers. But the game is boring now. Boring. They're all the same. White guys, black guys, they're all the same. They all play the same. It's boring. There's nothing to it. So I went to an NBA game. I went to Orlando. Not Orlando, to, Orlando. I went to an Orlando game. Boring against Indiana. Talk about a snooze fest. That was boring. Yep. Anyway, where else are we at here? So, just over a week, how's electioneering going? It's going well, Erica. Thank you for asking. Had an event last night. Christine says South Africa's headed for a revolt. Speaking of Italy, Maloney wants to ban surrogacy despite our collapsing population. Yeah, that's not smart, Radine. I don't know where that's coming from. What is her problem with surrogacy? It's a complicated situation, but some women aren't able to carry a child, and so a surrogate does it for them. So why not allow that? White men can't jump, says the scientist. Rumor has it. So here in South Africa, we could be labeled racist for not supporting black soccer. Exactly, Christine. If you are a football fan, you wouldn't want to watch that caliber soccer. You'll have to stow away USA to Durban if you find a ship. Yeah, thank you, Keith. That's a good idea. Minaj says, I agree about the game being boring today. I grew up a Jazz fan, amazed that Karl Malone and John Stockton only ran one play. Yeah, no, but Stockton to Malone was the play, and it was brilliant. I mean, I love the Jazz. John Stockton and Karl Malone were amazing. Amazing. I also like the Phoenix team. Huge. I followed the Bulls, Jordan, and when he went to the Wizards, I followed the Wizards. I absolutely love the game. Michael Jordan was unbelievable, the greatest basketball player of all time. Yes, I know we're not Will Chamberlain. It was actually Michael Jordan. Yep. Well, Dylan says, I hope you get elected. Well, I hope I win on the 23rd, Dylan. Certainly put a lot of effort into it. And frankly, I'm the best candidate, the most qualified, best experience, the person with the right demeanor to do this. But that doesn't always matter. I mean, people saying they'll vote for someone they went to high school with. Okay. And what's that person going to do? They don't care. People voting for someone because someone's spending tens of thousands of dollars blitzing television and radio, saturating with ads, as if that's the only candidate out there. But hopefully my strategy, Bill Russell, great basketball player, not the best. Hopefully my strategy will work. The only nick and complaint I have about Michael Jordan's career is the so-called Jordan rules. Every time Jordan went to the basket, people breathed on him. He got a foul, and he made a lot of points off of free throws and got a lot of three-point plays that way. So that's the only knock on his career is the way the officials, kind of helped him. Yes, Charles, people don't always vote with their brain. They vote against their best interest. And if they don't vote for me, they're voting against their best interest here. That's the bottom line. So we'll see what happens. Hopefully I can be able to carry the day. Hey, Fiona's here. Where you been, Fiona? A long time no see. We've had a chat before, but it isn't a joke. The ANC says there should be more black representatives of the Springbok team while Bafana. Exactly. Has no whites, none whatsoever. And the cricket team has barely got whites on it, and the few whites on there are always falsely accused of racism, and the former players who were coaches. Yeah, no, cricket is dead in South Africa, and soccer has been dead for a long time. Bafana. No, it's because, Graham, it's about black supremacy. It's not about equality. It's about black supremacy. Look at the airwaves in America. The airwaves in America are saturated with black actors in every one of our ads, representing just 13% of the population and representing 90% of the people appearing in ads or the main characters in ads. And the same with the television shows. We have black actors playing historically white people to distort history and mislead people. But if I were chosen for the role of Dr. Martin Luther King or Malcolm X in a biography, and I perform that role, no matter how good my acting, there would be an uproar. A white person can't perform that job. Then why can a black actress play the role of my ancestor, Jane Seymour? Unacceptable. How can Brandy, when she was a teenager, play Cinderella? Yes, I know it's a fictional character. You're going to say, but you can't say that. Well, I can. The story of Cinderella didn't originate in West Africa. It's not an old story from Ghana. It's not an old story from Songhai. It's not a folk tale from Great Zimbabwe. Cinderella comes from the forest of Germany, inhabited exclusively by white folks. And so portraying Cinderella by Brandy is cultural appropriation, something we heard whining about for years. But that's allowed. I don't put up with it, Ken. I'm talking about it right now. It's unacceptable. It undermines the quality of black folks. There's plenty of achievements for black folks. Let's talk about that. Where, instead of stealing my cultural traditions, my history of the Grimm brothers, accumulating these tales from oral tales spoken by Germans for millennia, instead of stealing my history and my culture, why don't you talk about Bess Coleman, the first black aviatrix, Madam C.J. Walker, Harriet Tubman, George Washington Carver, Crispus Attucks. These are Americans of achievement and fame who are black, ignored by black supremacists, by and large, instead promoting people of marginal influence or culturally appropriating things today. There's plenty to be proud of if you're a black American in black history. There's no such thing as black history. It's American history. Many African stories, but they're not widely known because they were never written down. Well, some of them are written down. Yan wasn't black. He was mixed race, the so-called colored. He was part South Asian and part white. Jan van Riebeck we're talking about, of course. Next, Cinderella will be LGBTQ with a bigger beard than me. What about Elizabeth Taylor playing Cleopatra? What about it? Cleopatra was Macedonian, wasn't she? She was white. Or olive skin, if you want to say that. Well, look, Menage a Trois, you can make that argument about, Yul Brynner playing the role of, Genghis Khan, and you'd be right. You could be right. That was cultural appropriation, 100%. But that came during a racist era, so let's flip it around. Are you saying we're in a racist era now, where the majority population is being discriminated against by Hollywood? If you are, I think it's a fair argument. But yes, Liz Taylor played Cleopatra. Cleopatra was Macedonian, was she not? Was she not? And by the way, Egyptians weren't black, Menage a Trois. They've never been black. There were Nubians who for a while ruled over Egypt during part of the dynasties, the dynastic period. But the Egyptians were not black. They were not Arab. They were inundated and swamped by the Arabs after Muhammad ran out of the peninsula and overran, murdered, intermarried with, raped, and assimilated the population. But the Greeks were the ones who were ruling Egypt. Cleopatra. So, what's your point, Menage a Trois? Let's get historically accurate here. Okay? Yep. Not you, the world. Oh, okay, Ken. Yeah, so there's my response on Elizabeth Taylor playing Cleopatra. But Yul Brynner shouldn't have been playing Genghis Khan. He should have been an Asian actor. But there weren't any Asian actors then because Hollywood was racist. Join the stream a little late. What did Zuma apologize for? Oh, Grammy apologized for not showing up in Port Elizabeth, Nelson Mandela Bay, for an event. He double booked and went to a funeral instead. So she was Macedonian, only a member of her dynasty to actually speak Egyptian. She was a descendant of Alexander's general Ptolemy. Thank you, Radine. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. She was white. So what's the beef, Menage a Trois? What's the beef? Look, your beef is a false one, but there's a legitimate one. I just talked about it. We had a lot of white actors playing Native Americans in the movies. They didn't hire Native Americans. Now we do that. Or we hire mixed race people like Lou Diamond Phillips to play Native Americans. Why not? He's part Native American. Anyway, one true historical book, the Bible. Ptolemy ruled Egypt after Alexander conquered it. They were Greek. Thank you, Charles. Yep. I'll never agree with the taxpayers should pay for termination of pregnancies. Well, I don't think taxpayers should ever pay to end someone's life. That is an abomination. Why should you use my tax dollars? I mean, I took an oath to support and defend the Constitution and protect Americans. I didn't take an oath to pay for people to be aborting children. That's unacceptable. You want to do that and you're allowed to do it legally, then you should do so at your own expense. Yep. Anyway, so there you have it. There's my take on that, folks. They even intermarried to keep the royal. Yes, that's correct. They married siblings and first cousins, absolutely. But the Egyptians did the same thing, famously, for a long time. I mean, Tutankhamun married his sister, did he not? Yeah, no, it's, anyway, so Minaj, you went quiet there, brother. I wasn't trying to embarrass you, but, I mean, yeah, you're gonna play with the big boys. You got to be ready. You're very inbred. Oh, here he is back. Egyptians were white. That's the first I've heard, according to the books I've read about Egypt. They descended out of Sudan. Oh, no, Menage a trois. Dude, the history of Egypt is 5,000 years. There were hundreds of dynasties of ruling families. There were multiple dynasties throughout the period. You need to do a little more research. Yes, Nubians from Sudan played a role in Egypt, but a brief period of time. And they didn't intermarry with the historic Egyptians. Historic Egyptians are gone, assimilated and wiped out by Arabs in the 7th century. They're gone. The Greeks and Macedonians who ruled there, gone. They weren't the first. There were Egyptians there first. They're the Greeks and Macedonians. And the Romans were also there too. Yeah, presumably should be Cleopatra required to film again. It would be a competition between Daniel Craig and Matt Damon. There are movie streaming channels exclusively. Yeah, can you imagine the backlash? Oh, exactly. It's not BET, it's WET, the White Entertainment Channel. White Entertainment. Wet. It's bet and wet. White Entertainment. We were talking about the Macedonian Ptolemaic dynasty. Right. North Africa only became olive and darker after the Arabs streamed out of the Saudi Peninsula in around 630, 640, somewhere around there. So when was that? Muhammad came out and spread Islam. Yep. They raided, conquered the Levant. They conquered the Middle East. They conquered the Egyptians in the end, or mixed race. All very much mixed race, but very, very olive today. But they weren't black, man. No, they weren't. I don't know who told you that. That's a lie. Many Greek colonies, Libya, Carthage. Yes, Carthage was Phoenicians. That's correct. The Lebanese settled Tunisia and founded Carthage, and then they were conquered by the Romans. Bet is owned by Viacom, with significant interest ownership private princes. Yeah, it's owned today by Viacom, but Bet wasn't started by them. Bet was started by Johnson. Johnson's a billionaire black American who started black entertainment television, brother. He's the one started. And it happens all the time. These companies create, they build a fortune, the founders sell out, or they're bought out by a big conglomerate. I mean, Heinz has all these brands. You think Heinz came up with them? Look at Hershey. Let me take a look at the Hershey Corporation. Let me show you the stuff that Hershey has. Hersh. Okay, I'll just do Google. That's the way to do it. So the Hershey Corporation owns all kinds of sweets. They didn't create most of these things. Hershey Company. Here you go. Here's their brands. Okay. So here we go. Look. Let me stop that. Accept all cookies. I hate when it does that. Okay, here we go. So let's go to the camera. Yeah, something's been acting up with my software lately. So here we go. Why does it do that? See how it flickered? That's weird. So we make brands that people love. Yeah, and a lot of them you didn't create. Look at all these brands. Kit Kat, Twizzlers, Reese's Pieces, Hershey Chocolate, Brookside, Skinny Pop, York, Peppermint Patties. Wow, a lot of different brands. And that's the Milk Duds. These aren't even, some of these brands are created by them, but a lot of them are not. But I mean, that's just one example of a corporation that produces lots of brands. Look at Unilever. Unilever did not create all these brands. Let's do that. Unilever, which is a European company. Oh, come on. There you go. Unilever brands. Here we go. This is what I want. All right. Knorr. They didn't create Knorr. That was a German company. Now it's owned by Unilever. So here's Unilever's brands. All right. So Ben & Jerry's. That's created by Ben & Jerry in New Hampshire. Or Vermont, excuse me. Hellmann's Mayonnaise. They didn't create that. Knorr. They didn't create it. Parasol, I think they did create. So there you go. Here are the brands. Axe, Ben & Jerry's, Cif, Clear, Close-Up, Comfort, Cornetto, the ice cream, Dermalogica, Domesticos, Dove. They didn't create Dove. That was an American brand. Hellmann's, established in 1913 by Americans. Horlicks, Knorr, since 1838, a German or Swiss company, actually. Lux, Lifebuoy. They didn't create Lifebuoy. Magnum, Omo, Pepsodent. That's an American brand they took over. Pond's, another American brand they took over. Yeah. That's page one. Here's page two. Rexona, Sunlight, Sunsilk, Surf, Tresemme. Woo, it's owned by Unilever, Vaseline, an American company. This is what happens. These brands get bought out by others, and that's what happens. Yep. So, yep. Roger Rabbit reporting for duty. Where you been, man? You got something missing there. So welcome back, Roger Rabbit. I've extensively studied Rome in North Africa. Well, I've lived it, Radine. I've been there in Tunisia. Yep. Morocco, especially in Tunisia. Walked all around. Tuburbo Majus. Been all over. Fantastic experience living in Tunisia. I mean, you walk around some of these sites, you pick up Byzantine, Roman, Carthaginian coins just laying there. They're all over the place. You can't take them. People do, but you can't. Wow, it's crazy. Nice. I just studied history all over, especially where there were famous battles when I was younger. Okay. Used to do miniature wargaming and had the Carthaginian army so read up on it, its opponents. Yeah, Carthaginians were amazing, but of course, Hannibal got a little carried away. Spent all his time campaigning in the Italian peninsula, schwacking the Italians, only to weaken himself back at home, and then eventually was defeated there. So, Jax, how's it going? Yep. Anyway, there you have it, folks. Right. Shall we wrap it up here? Thanks for tuning in. My apologies for coming up. Many local elites were actually quite eager to adapt Roman cultures. Oh, yeah, no. Of course. I mean, we saw it in Roman Britain. We saw it in France after Vercingetorix was defeated and the Celts were defeated. The French adopted pretty quickly. Romania is named after Rome, and they speak a Romance language, even though that's the land where Slavs should be, all things being equal. It's an odd outpost. Byzantium, of course, was part of the Roman Empire. You had Rome brought many benefits, but yeah, Hannibal was not supported by Carthage and ended up running out of logistics. He shouldn't have spent all those years in Rome because he never captured and destroyed Rome. I mean, he should have just left it be and gone back to Carthage. Yep. You're welcome, Pip. You all have a good night, and I've got stuff to do for my campaign, so I'll catch you all later. Have a lovely day. Thanks for being here. No super chats, 90 likes, no new members, but thank you all for being here. Do appreciate that. Yep. You're all very welcome. They over-relied on mercenaries, eventually betrayed them. Yeah, Rome also relied on mercenaries. The Carthaginians were just outnumbered at some point, and they just short-sighted. But Hannibal's a great general, but sometimes you got to think 5 steps ahead, not 2 steps ahead. No siege train was trying to force the Romans to come to a treaty. Yeah, well, they relied an awful lot on the Battle of Cannae, but that's not going to get it done. All right, folks, cheers. Thanks for being here.